All right, good afternoon. My name is Miss Rice. I am going to be your language arts instructor for this session. We're going to have a brief grammar review and then we're going to work on some poetry. We're going to be working with some of the academic standards, including how word choice and delivery when someone makes a speech can affect the emotion and tone for the audience, how when you look at the same subject matter with two different pieces of literature, you can gain different perspectives, and how literary structure and literary devices works within poetry. Now, poetry is important for many reasons. One of them being that poetry examines human emotions, and human emotions always figure into decision makings. We try to be objective. Sometimes we're very successful. But how often does someone do something they truly feel is the wrong move? The more you study and understand human feelings, the more you're going to understand the human conditions. And that is a valuable talent in almost any situation. So, also poetry is important with structure, because structure and rules mean you made a serious effort. If someone says, "I love you," that's great, and often they mean it. But it didn't take very much effort to say. On the other hand, if somebody gives you a poem 30, 20, even 10 lines long, and every line rhymes, and every line has the same number of syllables, and every set of syllables has the same rhythm, you know that person took some effort to communicate to you. It does mean something. So, poetry is important in substance and important in form. Form of language is important, of course, at all times, because the more clear your language, the less miscommunication you experience. And we all know people have had very, very sad situations on their hands simply because of miscommunication. So, to start with grammar, I'd like us to look at some conjunctions now. Now, does anyone recall what is a conjunction?
I tend to think of a conjunction as something that either pairs some otherwise separate ideas or disjoins or dissociates the two ideas.
Exactly. What a conjunction does in most grammatical situations, it joins two parts of the sentence. Often two parts of the sentence that could be complicated ideas all on their own. So you need to make sure the sentence is set up correctly. Punctuation is part of that. Now, this is a small list of subordinating conjunctions. There are several more. They're important to recognize because you only use a comma when they start a sentence. There are other conjunctions that always take commas, but these are only when you begin the sentence with the conjunction. So let's look at some of them. Although we were late, comma, we had fun. We had fun although we were late, no comma. I still play ball when it rains, no comma. When it rains, comma, I still play ball. So let's try a couple now. Since the television stopped working, I read more, and then I read more. Since the television stopped working. Which one would use the comma?
I'd put it in the sentence, since the television stopped working, comma, I read more.
Precisely. Very good, Sharon. Everyone please put a comma there. And then the last sentence, as Sharon mentioned correctly, is fine as is. Let's look at the next one. If Grandma visits, we'll have fun. We'll have fun if Grandma visits. Which one would use a comma?
If Grandma visits, we'll have fun.
Exactly. Vince is right. If Grandma visits, comma, we'll have fun. So, I'd like to do a little practice now. I'd like everyone to choose a subordinating conjunction. It can actually be two. Write two sentences, please. One that starts with the conjunction and uses the comma. One that has the conjunction in the middle and does not use the comma. And I'll check in a moment. I'll give you about a minute. Looks like you're getting it. Very good. Going well. Thank you. Very good, Vince. Got it. Excellent. Perfect. Okay. So, to move on now to poetry, let's look at the last conjunction here, if. If is a great word. 2 letters, and it always brings 2 different situations to mind. It sets up conditions. So, can someone tell me, if a situation is conditional, what does it mean? What is it?
It means it's not automatically going to happen, but it's contingent on other circumstances.
Right, precisely. If something's conditional, it's only going to happen if certain other things happen first. Since there are no guarantees in life, almost everything's conditional. The more thoughtful people with whom we interact are always going to keep that in mind. They're going to say things like, I can help you tomorrow if my family doesn't need me. You can use my computer at work if the boss doesn't give me a last-minute assignment. If you light that cigarette or eat that 3rd piece of cake, you're going to hate yourself in an hour. So please think about what you're doing. Now, it's hard to be thoughtful all the time. It's hard to go through every scenario. We're often in a hurry. Things like panic, fear, depression, joy, those can all interfere with our judgment, and we can make decisions we regret later. Now, with Rudyard Kipling's poem, If, he's well aware it's hard to always stay thoughtful and centered. He does want us to remember that we can feel very good about ourselves whenever we're able to do so. So, the poem if you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise, if you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on, if you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foe nor loving friend can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, then yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man, my son. All right. So, this is certainly a poem of conditions. 20 conditions, 1 reward, and a reward that's up for interpretation. But first of all, even though this says, you'll be a man, my son, I mean, Kipling might have even been thinking more about a male audience, but can this easily apply to females? Can women also, get something very substantial from this?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. No, I wanted an answer.
To me, it seems like he's counseling against the ostrich-like approach to life and realizing that the more conditionals of which you're aware, the more likely you are to be an informed, enlightened adult, male or female.
Right, exactly, good. And I think adult is a big word here. It's very hard to grow up, especially in a protected society that gives you so much. So any other ideas? So what does Kipling mean? You'll be a man, my son. What kind of person is the kind of person Kipling wants you to be? Like, you're enlightened is part of it. Anything else? Enlightened?
I was thinking self-respect. Like,
right.
All these things to me say if you can, meet what life gives you, you'll respect yourself.
Excellent. Very good, Sharon. I think that's right, too. Anything else to add? Okay. Now, so what we have here is where Kipling is really asking you to take a long, hard look at yourself. But the beauty is that he does it with poetry. He's well aware if he says to someone, look, these are 20 levels of achievement, and if you don't hit every one, you're going to live and die entirely average. Now, that's not going to be effective, but he knows how to work with poetry. He's saying, if you can do this, if you can make it work out that way, he's not making any claim to know you at all. He's not passing judgments on you. These are all a bunch of conditions, and the rhyme and the meter is tight, and it's the style and the rhythm and the rhyme of poetry that makes music out of the human voice. And we all learn better with music. We remember it better, we internalize it more, and sometimes it's easier to get hard news through the arts, through theater, stage, poetry, music. Kipling works with this, and he asks us to take a long, hard look at ourselves, but does it in a very effective way. Now, this is a situation where you want to be reflective, thinking about yourself. But are there times where there really is not time, or you're just not in a good situation to assess every single possibility?
I would think so, yeah.
Right. So what are some situations where you might just have to act, where you really aren't going to have time to analyze?
Thunderstorm.
Thunderstorms, yes. When you're in the edges of a hurricane and the power's about to go. Yeah. So, yes. Actually, Sharon, can you unplug the computer? And just pull it out. There we go. All right, see? That was our plan of action. Now, so in case if the power goes out, we can continue.
But don't you think it's also the case that even though there are situations in life where we don't have the luxury for reflection, the people that have developed the habits of reflection can become more intuitively adept at arriving at the right conclusion?
Sure, with the right amount of practice,
Right.
yes. And actually, we're going to get to that.
Okay.
So, any thoughts on some situations where you have to act?
I'm thinking, like, say you're babysitting and the child's about to fall down the stairs, to quickly do something.
Right, exactly.
Or I'm thinking of a situation about 20 years ago. I was on the Pennsylvania Turnpike, and whatever indicator it is on the dashboard that your engine's overheating was soaring. And I had to ask myself, which is a better thing to do? Wait till the next convenient exit or pull over before the car explodes. And I ended up pulling over, and this was before cell phones, and walking about a mile to one of those little phones they had and asking to get in touch with my father at the time. He was living locally, and he said, "Fella, you pleasantly surprised me that you had the sense to pull over." That was, kind of a rivalry between intuition and reflection, because you only had so much time to think, and the stakes were high.
Yeah, okay, and that's exactly the thing. When you are in danger, there are times where you're just going to have to act, where you really don't have time to think. And Shakespeare addresses this in more than one play. But he also wants to make it clear, you should never panic. And just because you're in great danger, that is not an excuse to turn off your brain. He does that with quite a few plays. Romeo and Juliet think the situation's desperate and they kill each other because they're too sad to analyze the situation. Othello kills his own wife because he's too angry to think about the situation. Julius Caesar, both Brutus and Cassius think their side is losing when they're actually winning. They both kill themselves. So Shakespeare is saying, look, emotional surges are part of what make us human, but don't let them turn off the other gift of being a human being, your mind. However, he does acknowledge that there are times when you really are going to just have to either work on instinct or face the fact that things are so bad at this point you might as well just stay positive. The other side's just not going to help you. So in the play Henry V, which was a true story, it ended with the story of an actual battle, the Battle of Agincourt, which was a battle that the English won, even though the French outnumbered them immensely and had home team advantage. Now, Henry V gave a speech. We'll never know what it was, but it was obviously a really good motivation because England won. Now, the thing going on with this speech is everybody knew they were probably going to die. And as Henry went out to fight, and he did fight with them, he knew that the important thing now was going to be to just keep everybody motivated, excited. There was really no point in thinking about the negative. Can you hit a point on the keyboard? There, thank you. So, if we turn now to the speech of St. Crispin's Day, St. Crispin's Day, October 25th, was the day that this took place. So, here was the speech. He that outlives this day and comes safe home will stand a tiptoe when this day is named and rouse him at the name of Crispin. He that shall live this day and see old age will yearly on the vigil feast his neighbors and say tomorrow is St. Crispin. Then will he strip his sleeve and show his scars and say these wounds I had on Crispin's day. Old men forget, yet all shall be forgot. But he'll remember with advantages what feats he did that day. Then shall our names, familiar in his mouth as household words, Harry the King, Bedford and Exeter, Warwick and Talbot, Salisbury and Gloucester, be in their flowing cups freshly remembered. This story shall the good man teach his son, and Crispin shall ne'er go by from this day to the ending of the world, but we in it shall be remembered. We few, we happy few, we band of brothers. For he today that sheds his blood with me shall be my brother. Be he ne'er so vile, this day shall gentle his condition. And gentlemen in England now abed shall think themselves accursed they were not here, and hold their manhoods cheap, whiles any speaks that fought with us upon St. Crispin's Day. Okay, so this is very much the opposite of Kipling's 20 Conditions, 1 Reward. He gives you several very tangible rewards. You're going to party, you're going to be famous, and I'm going to make you rich. Now, you get all these rewards for one condition. What's the condition?
You fight for me.
And you
Win.
Yeah. You have to stay alive. This doesn't work out, you're going to die. But if you talk to Henry V, he would probably say, my men knew that was the case. There was no reason to depress them. The only way they were going to stay alive is if they fought. I did the right thing. So, we've examined two kinds of motivation today. The kind of motivation to make you maybe put action in front of thought and keep you alive, and the kind of action that makes you a more thoughtful person. And of course, these are both very important kinds of motivation. A successful society in the long run will probably need both. But what I'd like you to do for homework tonight is write one paragraph on which one of these poems you liked better and why. I'd like it to include one subordinating conjunction. I'd like you to circle the conjunction and circle the comma. And that will be all. Thank you. To stop it. Thank you.